In a stunning display of provocative rhetoric, former President Donald Trump has once again set the stage for a geopolitical firestorm, this time by reviving his long-standing expansionist vision and suggesting that Canada is effectively meant to be the 51st state of the United States. In a recent interview on Fox News, Trump openly criticized Canada's leadership, labeling the nation as one of the nastiest to negotiate with, while taking direct aim at former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, mockingly referring to him as Governor Trudeau. These remarks, combined with escalating trade disputes and fluctuating tariffs, have sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles, prompting swift backlash from Canadian officials and intensifying tensions between the two neighboring nations. But beyond the headlines, what does this growing rift mean for the future of US-Canada relations? Could Trump's aggressive policies push Canada toward a historic realignment, moving away from its reliance on the US and forging stronger ties with Europe? In this report, we break down the key developments, the economic fallout, and the deeper implications of this latest political controversy. Trump's latest comments regarding Canada are not merely offhand remarks. They are part of a larger pattern of nationalist and expansionist rhetoric that has defined his second term's foreign policy. While previous U.S. leaders have sought to strengthen alliances through diplomacy, Trump has adopted a more confrontational approach, one that challenges traditional partnerships in favor of American dominance. His assertion that Canada is meant to be the 51st state is emblematic of this strategy, using provocative language to assert U.S. economic and political superiority over its northern neighbor. However, this rhetoric has not gone unnoticed. In Canada, Trump's remarks have been met with widespread condemnation, with political leaders denouncing the statements as an attack on national sovereignty. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney did not mince words when addressing the controversy, stating unequivocally that Canada will never be part of the United States. We are a sovereign nation with our own identity, values, and economic interests. His firm response reflects a growing sentiment within Canada, one that rejects the notion of U.S. dominance and seeks to assert greater independence in trade and foreign policy. Beyond the political firestorm, Trump's aggressive stance toward Canada has had tangible economic consequences. The U.S. has imposed fluctuating tariffs on Canadian goods, targeting key industries such as steel, aluminum, and agricultural exports. In response, Canada has taken a firm stance, implementing a series of retaliatory measures designed to protect its economy and send a clear message to Washington. One of the most immediate reactions came from Canadian provinces, which swiftly enacted policies to limit American imports. Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia have all placed restrictions on U.S. liquor sales, a move that directly impacts American beverage companies relying on Canadian markets. Quebec, in particular, has gone a step further, instructing its Treasury Board to review all government contracts involving U.S. suppliers, a bureaucratic maneuver aimed at prioritizing domestic and non-American partners. Meanwhile, Alberta, a province with historically strong trade ties to the U.S., initially hesitated to take retaliatory action. However, as tensions escalated, Premier Danielle Smith announced new strategic tariffs on American goods that could be sourced elsewhere, signaling a shift toward economic diversification. Similarly, British Columbia has opted for a more targeted approach, banning the sale of liquor from U.S. states governed by Republican administrations, a clear political message aimed at the heart of Trump's support base. Even smaller provinces have joined the wave of economic resistance. Nova Scotia has doubled highway tolls for American vehicles passing through the province, while Manitoba and Prince Edward Island have enacted full bans on U.S. liquor imports. Yukon, following suit, suspended American alcohol sales and is considering additional tariffs on U.S. goods entering its territory. These measures, while symbolic, collectively send a powerful message. Canada is not willing to tolerate Trump's aggressive economic policies without a fight. As economic tensions rise, Canadian consumers are increasingly shifting their spending habits away from the U.S. The tourism industry, once a pillar of US-Canada economic relations, is now experiencing a significant downturn as Canadians actively avoid traveling south of the border. Recent data shows that in February 2025, the number of Canadian residents returning from the US by car dropped by 23% compared to the previous year, while Flight Centre, one of Canada's largest travel agencies, reported a 40% decline in leisure bookings to US destinations. The reasons for this decline are clear. Many Canadians view traveling to the US as supporting a country whose leadership has openly disrespected their nation. This shift in consumer behavior is not limited to travel. A growing movement advocating for the boycott of US products and services is gaining traction across Canada. Consumers are increasingly favoring Canadian-made goods, and businesses are re-evaluating their supply chains to reduce reliance on American imports. Economists estimate that a 10% reduction in Canadian travel to the US could lead to a $2.1 billion drop in spending and the loss of approximately 14,000 American jobs, a sobering statistic for industries that have long depended on cross-border tourism. Should the decline in Canadian visitors exceed 20%, the potential losses could surpass $4 billion, hitting American businesses hard. In response to rising tensions, Canada is expanding its trade and diplomatic partnerships, reducing reliance on the U.S. Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit to France, and the U.K. highlights a strategic pivot toward Europe. Meeting with President Macron, he emphasized Canada's unique geopolitical role and commitment to economic and security cooperation. Canada and France reaffirmed support for Ukraine, positioning themselves as powers of peace. Additionally, Canada's $6.5 billion investment in radar technology from Australia signals its intent to strengthen security and Arctic sovereignty. Carney's European focus sends a clear message: Canada will not be a subordinate partner to the US. The growing rift between the US and Canada under Trump is reshaping their historically close ties. Unlike past disputes resolved through diplomacy, this divide, driven by nationalism, trade wars, and eroding trust, feels deeper. If tensions persist, future Canadians may see the US as an unreliable neighbor, fueling economic and political self-sufficiency. For America, a Canada distancing itself weakens US influence and harms businesses reliant on trade and tourism. As both nations face this critical moment, one question remains: can diplomacy repair the damage, or has Trump's approach permanently altered US-Canada relations? As tensions between the US and Canada continue to escalate under Trump's leadership, the once unshakable alliance between the two nations faces an uncertain future. While past disputes have been resolved through diplomacy and mutual interests, the current rift, fueled by nationalist rhetoric, trade wars, and growing distrust, may leave lasting scars. If Canada continues its strategic pivot toward Europe and economic self-reliance, the US could find itself losing influence over its closest ally. Is this a temporary crisis, or the beginning of a long-term geopolitical shift? Only time will tell whether diplomacy can repair the fractures, or if the divide is here to stay.